Paul and Russell Westbrook to understand what the players wanted moving forward. During a virtual owners meeting yesterday, MJ reportedly told the other owners, quote, "Right now, listening is better than talking." Shannon, what do you make of MJ's role in all of this?
I'm not surprised. I mean, he's probably universally idolized by most of the guys, especially in that bubble, Skip. A lot of the NBA player, he's it. He's you know, not to be sacrilegious, but Skip, he's the Jesus. If you play basketball, he's it. And a lot of players feel that he's it. So he's unique because he played the game, Skip, and played the game at an extremely high level. Universally, a lot of people say he's the greatest. Okay, fine. For this argument, he's the greatest. Now he's the only African-American owner. So he gets to wear two hats. He's like, now he's talking to Chris Paul. Chris Paul is an endorsee of Brand Jordan.
He is.
So is Russell Westbrook.
And he talked to both of them.
And so he's asking, okay, bro, what y'all want? What you looking for? And Chris Paul, in talking with LeBron James and maybe some of the other guys, says, look, Mike, we need Steve Ballmer worth $70 billion. We need him to use some of them contacts. We need guys that are worth 3, 4, 5, 8 billion to use contacts. It's not, and don't get me wrong, don't think we're not appreciative of you giving money to worthy causes in the communities. But the one cause that we really need is police reform. If we can get that, that is the first step. Can you do that? Can you use those contacts? Can you billionaires? Can you reach out to attorney generals? Can you reach out to DAs? Can you reach out to mayors and your states and local senators? Can you do that for us and ask them to get legislation, policing reform? Can we get that? That's what we need, Mike. And we don't feel, we appreciate the slogans. We appreciate the symbols. But now we need some substance. Because, Skip, I don't care how fancy the cake, does the cake taste good? You put all that icing. Oh, it's Oreo icing, it's vanilla, and we use this and we use that. Does the cake taste good? Okay, Black Lives Matter, and say her name, and how many more, and vote reform, and all that. The substance is what we need from these owners to reach across the aisle to get policies enacted that help these underserved communities. That's what we need, Mike. And Mike says, guys, y'all trying to talk over them. You're not trying to hear them. Right now, let's listen. Let them talk.
Let them talk.
We listen, and then we come up with a plan of how we can best help them. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to take. Because, Skip, there ain't no guarantee you won't be in the bubble again in December or January.
That's a fact.
And then we come up with a plan of how we can best help them. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to take. Because, Skip, there ain't no guarantee you won't be in the bubble again in December or January.
That's a fact.
And you're going to be down there with all 30 teams. So before we go start talking about, we don't want to hear what they got to say, we might be in this very predicament again in 6 months. So let's hear what they have to say and what's the best plan of action that we can help these young men and help out America.
All very interesting. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Michael Jordan's. Had the honor and privilege of covering him in Chicago back in the late 90s, the Last Dance year, 1998. And I watched closely his evolution post-career. When I first saw the headline on Jackie McMullen's piece on ESPN.com, I wanted to read too much into it. I wanted it to be that he was the saving grace figure, you know, like he saved the season. The more I read of it, I'm not sure he saved the season. Was he a little bit of a mediator, a facilitator, just because he's, to me, the greatest player ever? Yes, he was. He's an owner who was the greatest player ever. So he's the only African-American owner, but he didn't just play. He really played.
And just give if he call, how you not talk to Mike? If that guy call your phone, how you gonna say, nah, I ain't talking about it, hang up?
And to your point, both Chris and Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, they work for Jordan Brand and they're paid a lot of money. So yes, they're gonna take the call. And I checked before the show just to make sure, because I couldn't remember. What year was Chris born? He was 1985, Russell was 1988. So yes, in their formative basketball years, he was rolling, man.
Yeah, Chris Paul was 13 when Michael last year in Chicago.
Okay.
So
it would have dramatic impact. Some of the younger players today, they just don't, they last danced, you know, like, oh, that's who the guy was.
Exactly,
okay?
yes.
So I do think he played a minor significant role, but it was a significant role because he could explain to the owners, this is the mentality. This is where their heads are right now, and this is where your heads all better be if you want this to calm down so that you can resume.
Right.
And it did. And by the way, speaking of contacts, Michael Jordan's got some contacts out there. So so he could pull some strings, right? So what do we know about The Last Dance? Michael Jordan was often criticized, even condemned as a player because of his lack of social stance. He avoided it at all literal costs, right? Because he didn't want to cost himself one penny of Nike money by taking a stand that would offend anybody. The old quote, Republicans buy sneakers too. Okay, we get it. He says, I didn't really say that. And some
I said it yes. Yeah, I'm saying it yes. Hey, you know Republicans buy sneakers too.
But heart of hearts, I think that's pretty much where his heart and head were as in his prime of his basketball career. He just, and I've talked to him about, I talked to him about when he was a player, he would just always, what LeBron would say occasionally, I just don't know enough. He had no interest in politics. He had no interest in anything outside that arena and that round ball. That was his whole life. He was obsessed with it, maybe to a fault. And yet, this Jordan that I'm watching now, as he ages, there's a sadness to him because he looks back on his former self.
I believe you're right.
And it hurts. And he said before the doc dropped, you know, he said, when you see some of the footage of me, you're going to think of me as a horrible guy. When he's getting on Scotty Burrell, obviously, and it gets mean-spirited. I defended it. You had some issues with it. You wouldn't have taken it if you had been a teammate, obviously. But that's the way he did it. And it worked for him and it worked for them. But he looks back on it now, and I think it sort of horrifies him. What was I? You know, that was me? Yep. You had a rage to win championships.
Skip, I think the thing is, I believe that when it comes to certain things, that Michael was always morally conscious. He knew that some of the things that were going on was wrong. But socially, Skip, you knew back then, if you spoke out of turn, endorsers dropped you automatically. No question, no, none of this, well, you know, we're going to see what's going on. Boom, that was it. And Michael was trying to build a brand. The best way I can build a brand is to be as Switzerland as possible, as neutral as possible. I don't say this, I don't say that. Everybody, you know, everybody is you know, the one community might be saying we need you to say more, but the other community is like, well, he's saying just enough. And so Michael took that approach. As he looks back, maybe if I'd have spoke out, because I am Michael Jordan, maybe if I'd have spoke out, maybe some things could have been different. And I think sometimes he plays that back in the back of his mind, Skip, is that, man, maybe I should have, because remember, Craig Hodges tried to get Michael and Magic to boycott the NBA Finals.
Game 1.
In
Chicago.
When Rodney King situation.
It was right after it. Yes. So in the throes of it. Yes, it was.
And so, and then, you
know, that's an interesting point. That was going to be now. That's a boycott. That's game 1 of the finals.
NBA Finals. Yes. Now that's a message.
Yes.
So I think.
And by the way, both Michael and Magic said no. No.
and Skip, really back then, unless they took your livelihood away, you didn't. I mean, Ali, they took it. He's like, no, I'm not going. And they took his livelihood away, but he was standing on the principle, this is my religion. I don't believe, I live in America. Them Viet Cong ain't did nothing to me. They ain't turned no water holes. They ain't turned no dogs on me. They don't deny me the ability to come into a restaurant or anything. But you want to go kill them?
I got no quarrel with them.
Yeah, he said the Viet Cong ain't calling me no in. He say so, but I think Michael looks back as like, maybe there's some things that he should have, because a lot of times athletes don't, especially when you're that good, Skip, you become so selfish, you dedicate all your time to your craft, like Tom Brady. Tom Brady is going to look back and not going to have 1 ounce of regret about his playing career. Because, Skip, he's done everything. He's eaten, he's trained to be this. But Michael...
But Tom, maybe with a daughter or son,
right.
say, I should have been there.
Maybe there's a recital I should have went to. But Skip, when you get to that level, you're going to miss something. You resign to that fact. You have to become selfish, and you have to have a partner that's willing to understand that. Because we've heard rumblings about Giselle like Tommy.
Oh, definitely.
You need to come home, bro. I need some help. I need some help around here.
They, according to all those rag magazines, as Ernestine calls them, they've had a troubled marriage at different points because of what you just talked about.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, but like you said, Skip, he is very unique. You talking about the player at the high, and now he's an owner, and he is like, this is their mentality. This is what they're thinking. But he also says, Chris Paul, this is what them other 29 white guys thinking too now.
That's right.
So